All right, 7th math students, one more video for this week. Again, this is review. We talked about this early on in the year. We talked about slope-intercept forms. So this equation, if you remember, we talked about y equals mx plus b. Miss H actually taught some of this in class. So two things that we are looking for in this equation. We're going to write equations from a graph. So m, hey, we just talked about that in our slope video. M always represents the slope. And then the b variable at the end here, and it's plus b or minus b, depending on if b is positive or negative. That is our y-intercept. So the y-intercept, remember, this is where the line crosses the x-axis. Where the line crosses the I've been teaching algebra for so long in my other class. It's called the y-intercept. So it's where the line crosses the y-axis. There is also an x-intercept, what I'm talking about in my algebra class, but in this case in our slope-intercept, it's always the y-intercept. And if that doesn't make sense, I hope it does when we look at these examples down here with the graphs, okay? So first, all we have to do, if we're given the slope here is 2, that's our m variable, and then the y-intercept is -1. All we have to do is plug it into that equation. So the y and the x always stay in the equation. So y equals the m we're going to replace with 2. The x stays. Now in this case, our b value, it says here, is -1. So we're going to write it as -1. So y equals 2x minus 1, that's all you have to do, okay? So again, we have m, our slope is -3/5, our y-intercept is 4. In our equation up here, those are the only two things we're replacing. So y equals, actually I'm going to keep it consistent here and go to my blue color. Y equals, m is -3/5, x, don't forget the x. In this case, our y-intercept is +4, so we're going to write it as +4. All right? Slope here is -3. Y-intercept is 2. So y equals, m is -3, -3x. Our y-intercept is 2, so +2. All right? Slope is -1. Y-intercept is 7. So y equals, m is -1, so -1x. Y-intercept is 7 plus 7. Okay, we can actually simplify this one because the -1 in front of the x we can always get rid of. It's invisible. So we can also write it like this. Y equals -x plus 7. Okay? Y equals, slope is 1/4, and then y-intercept is 0. So y equals 1/4 x. The y-intercept is 0, so we write it +0, or we know that it's going to cross at the origin, so we can just write it as y equals 1/4 x. Okay? And last one, because I wanted to get to this -1 again, so -5/2 is our slope, and y-intercept is -3. So y equals, slope is -5/2 x, and y-intercept is negative, so we'll write it as -3. Okay? Hopefully that's pretty easy. If you have your slope and your y-intercept, you just plug them in to this equation that we have up here at the top. Okay? So if we have a graph, well, we need to find those two things to write our equation. So I just recorded a video on slope. So use your 2 points. We'll find our rise, 1, 2, 3. So we go up 3, it's positive. I'll write that down. Our run is forward 1. It is positive because we're running right. So 3/1, that simplifies to a whole number 3. 3 divided by 1. Okay? Our y-intercept, I'm going to do this one. Here is our y-axis. So here we're finding, where does this line cross the y-axis? Well, when I do that, here is the y-intercept, or the b value. Okay? So This is, we start at 0 and we just count either up or down. Since it is below 0, we go down 1, 2, 3, 4, so our b value is -4. If it were above the origin, then it'd be positive. All right, and then we just write our equation. Y equals 3x, our slope was 3. Our y-intercept is negative, so -4. And there's our equation. Okay? Let's do another one. We have our 2 points. Let's find our slope. This one's going downhill, so I know the slope's going to be negative. We go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So -6 for our rise. Our run, then, we go forward 1, 2, 3, 4. Since we went forward, it is +4. And then we can simplify that, divide both those by 2, so we get -3/2 as the slope. Okay? Y-intercept, where does it cross? Here's our y-axis, so where does that line cross the y-axis? Right here, this point is our y-intercept, or our b value. Now, this one is above, here's the origin, so it's above, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 above. So our b value, or y-intercept, is 7. So let's write our equation. Y equals -3/2, that's our m, x, and then b is 7, so +7. All right. Again, I'll do a couple more of these examples on the back side of these notes. And you're welcome to look at those examples. That's all I'm going to record for the video, though. Thank you guys for listening.